Warriors Wrap-Up starts now.
Indeed, it does start now right here on 95.7 The Game. We welcome you in as the Warriors still looking for their second home victory of the season. Thunder come in, and the Warriors made it seem like it might be a game a little bit in the second half, but they got down 15 into the first quarter, made a little run in quarter number 2, but you look at this one, and the Thunder, after the Warriors had trimmed it down at the half, pushed the lead back up. Warriors then cut it down again to 1 at 84-83, with Jonathan Kuminga having an opportunity to tie the game on a free throw. He missed that free throw. And Oklahoma City, in a night where they made 19 three-pointers, they hit a back-to-back threes right there. And a one-point game quickly was, again, a 7-point game, and the Thunder would end up pushing it all the way out to 21 from that point, and never really any drama for the Warriors in this one down the stretch. And they wind up losing it 128 to 109. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. That is the phone number to give me a call or shoot me a text here on 95.7 The Game, as we are broadcasting live from Harmonic Brewing inside Thrive City. Pretty good crowd on hand following this one. People grabbing a couple of brews here before heading off into the night, trying to figure out how this Warriors team can win at home and how this Warriors team can try to figure out a way to win a game without Stephen Curry, in addition to Draymond Green, who was serving the first game of his 5-game league-imposed suspension. So we'll hear from Steve Kerr, hopefully, between now and 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'll see how things roll, and if the people want to talk about this one tonight. A game that never really felt like the Warriors had a shot, even when it was close there, as I mentioned. It was one of those, how are they even in the game? How is it even close? Nice night for Jonathan Kuminga, as Kuminga winds up leading the Warriors with 21 points, but just not enough offense and really not enough defense on a night where Oklahoma City shoots lights out in the 19 of 32 from three-point range. Warriors hit 14, which without Steph Curry is actually pretty good, but a rough night from Klay Thompson, and the Warriors just don't have enough on either end right now. Not enough defensively with Draymond Green out, not enough offensively right now with Stephen Curry out, and the Thunder in this one prevail. They're now 8-4, so OKC off to a good start. Warriors stole the game in Oklahoma City, thriller a couple of weeks back, and now the Warriors find themselves 1-5 at home. They're 0-4 on this 6-game homestand, which will feature another game against the Thunder on Saturday, and then the Rockets in on Monday before the Warriors go to Phoenix, and then right back at home for San Antonio. All of those games going to be without Draymond Green. I think at this point the Warriors are hoping that Steph Curry can come back on Saturday, day-to-day. Kind of feels like Saturday's in play. Monday, for sure, could be in play for the Warriors. And so, again, one of the big questions for this Warriors team this year, how do they win games without Steph Curry? They were able to do it 14-12 a year ago. I think they feel like when they're healthy, this team is a better assembled team of complementary pieces compared to last year. But without Curry, how do you win? And so, now with 2 games in without Stephen Curry, and the Warriors find themselves at 6-7 and under 500 for the first time on the year since they were 0-1, losing here on opening night to the Suns. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors lost just 8 home games at Chase Center last year. They're already up to 1-5. And so even if you're going to be a really good road team, which the Warriors have been to this point at 5-2, they've essentially wasted the 5-2 road start with the 7 of the first 9 away from home. And I think they also wasted a good lengthy stretch of being able to play healthy and with their full complement of players before the Draymond Green suspension and the Stephen Curry injury. So you look at all of that, and the Warriors now find themselves, I hate to say it, but in a similar position to last year, where it feels like, yeah, you may like your team better than the one you had a year ago, but it's an uphill climb in an extremely competitive Western Conference, and I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are an example. I mean, that was a play-in tournament team a year ago, and Oklahoma City is 8-4. And, you start looking around at the standings in the West, and it's early, but Sacramento's figured some things out after a tough start. They didn't have their best player in De'Aaron Fox or one of their best, they're 1A, if you want to say Sabonis is their best player. Sabonis was their best player last year until the playoffs. But they didn't have one of their two dudes, and they still are 6-4 after they got off to a 2-4 start. They've won 4 in a row. OKC's 8-4. Houston 6-3. You've got teams like the Lakers and Suns who are trying to feel themselves out, and to similar degrees as the Warriors, but there's some other teams off to some excellent starts. Denver's 9-2, Dallas 9-3, Minnesota, who we just saw, 8-3, OKC 8-4, and these are all teams that were, with the exception of Denver, these are all teams that were beneath the Warriors in the standings last year who were coming to play. Now Sacramento has passed the Warriors. Obviously, we saw how that played out in the playoffs. So the Warriors are in line with the Lakers and Suns and these other teams, but there are teams that have come from beneath the Warriors now to take the early lead, and the Warriors are going to have to at some point make up for it, and unfortunately they're going to have to be healthy, I think, in an attempt to do it, because as I always say, there's two different kinds of depth. There's the depth that you have when you have your whole team and feel like everybody can be in certain places. And then there's also the depth that you have when a couple of guys are out. Can you win games? Can you survive? And I think the jury is definitely still out as to whether the Warriors have that latter depth. They certainly don't at this point of the season, going up against another young and talented, slashing, drive and kick type of a team like the Thunder are. Point of attack defense problematic, three-point defense problematic. And the Warriors, again, just not enough on either side of the ball in this one, as the Thunder wind up winning it by 19 after they led by as many as 21. All right, more thoughts on this one coming up. 888-957-9570. Let's go to the phones and get it started with Odell, who's on the Bay Bridge here tonight on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Odell.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I got you loud and clear, my friend. How are you doing tonight? What's on your mind?
Man, I just left the game, man. We need some defense inside, man. I got three names for you, JD. I got Taco Falls, Bobo, or Ty Soto. Can we get any of those guys? 7-footers, all three of them. Is there any chance that we can get any of those guys?
I would say probably not, Odell, and thanks for the call. And the reason I say probably not is not to be dismissive of the idea, and I certainly don't think you're alone, Odell, but it's a scenario where I think the Warriors believe that they will take Kevon Looney and Dario Saric and even Trace Jackson-Davis, who didn't play until the game was decided tonight at Steve Kerr's discretion, that they believe that those three centers, along with Draymond Green playing small ball center, they'd get the bulk, if not all the minutes for the Warriors. And so they now have also signed their 14th player. And they'd really, at this point, I think, are wait and see on if they would add a 15th player to this roster. Maybe down the stretch when it's more cost effective, or after the trade deadline when you start to get into the luxury tax and all of that kind of stuff. If somebody has to go and you can rework the money to maybe add a 15th player. But I think at this point, barring some kind of an injury, the Warriors are comfortable with who they have at the center spot. And again, to me, tonight wasn't about the center spot. Tonight was not about not having a big. Tonight was about point of attack defense. Tonight was about draw and kick. The Thunder had 42 points in the paint in this game, but the Warriors lost because of the 57 three-pointers, points on three-pointers that Oklahoma City was able to knock down in this one. So, yeah, to me it was draw and kick, and I know Steve Kerr joked before the game that the Warriors were going to have to figure out a way to, they won the last game even though they gave up 139, but they were going to have to figure out a way to be able to not give up 139 again. Well, they didn't, but without Steph Curry, you're not going to be able to keep up nearly the pace of 128. So, it's kind of chicken or the egg. Is it offense? Is it defense? I mean, the Warriors didn't play good defense tonight. And then without Steph Curry, I think you're going to have to win by gritting and grinding and scratching and clawing and doing those kinds of things. And the Warriors really, other than some stretches where they got down in that 12 to 15 point range, they would cut it to 7, they would cut it to 8, and then it would get pushed back up. They cut it to 1, and then it would get pushed back up. So not enough defense, but also not enough offense either for the Warriors in this one. And they're kind of left with the whole where do you go from here? And the where do you go from here is you got to get Steph Curry back, and then you got to figure out a way to better have the pieces fit together around him to where you're getting some secondary and some third-level scoring around Steph Curry, because that was the big problem when they had Steph. And now, again, we've seen this in the past. Draymond Green misses, and when Draymond Green misses, come on in, take a picture. We're doing the show right now, but take a picture. Yeah, absolutely. What's your name? Nathan, appreciate you checking in here at Harmonic. Get on the camera here, Nathan. Say what's up. We're on YouTube and Twitch. And we're appreciate it, man. I think I got a day next week, so I appreciate it. Nathan, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your brew. What was your name? Okay, awesome. Nice to meet you. Wonderful meeting you both. Yeah, you got it. Enjoy the game. All right. Nathan in his D'Angelo Russell Warriors jersey. Appreciate you checking in and stopping by and saying hi out here at Harmonic. All right, where was I? All right, Sterling, let's pause for a quick ID, and then we'll get back to the phones, and then I'll figure out what point I was going to belabor again at that point. But here's your ID.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
All right, Dale in Walnut Creek from Harmonic here in Thrive City. Dale, you're on 95.7 The Game. What's going on tonight, my man?
Hey, how you doing, JP? Thanks for taking the call. A couple of things. Number one, everybody who makes it to the NBA is a great player. They're among the best in the world. The names that we have on our roster are great. The play of those names is really subpar. We are not even as good as the average team in the NBA right now. We are older and slower. Small ball is not going to work in the Western Conference because the Western Conference is tall ball. And one of the things I believe that is hampering our offense, Klay 1 for 10, is that they have to work so hard on defense because they're so small. And so that's one. Number two, tonight wasn't about size. Tonight wasn't. 3 out of every 4 games is. We're too small. Last year I said that without Steph Curry, we would not be a playoff team. This year I'm going to go a step further. With Steph Curry and the guys playing the way they are now, we'll be a play-in team. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, I appreciate it. I mean, if Andrew Wiggins is going to play the way that he has through 13 games, and let's just mention it, and I probably should have mentioned it sooner than about 15, 17 minutes into the show, Klay Thompson. I've talked about this a ton. It's not to say that Klay Thompson isn't a legend. It's not to say that Klay Thompson isn't a future Hall of Famer. It's not to say Klay Thompson isn't going to have spectacular games this year. But Klay Thompson's bad games absolutely kill you. And it was that way last year and over this homestand. Klay Thompson has had a couple of really bad games, Saturday and Sunday, and then he gets ejected from the game on Tuesday, and tonight he's bad again. So you've got 5 of 16, back-to-back for Klay. Then he gets ejected, and we can debate whether he should have or shouldn't have. And I said the other night, I don't necessarily think he should have. But when everything jumped off the way it did, the officials went back and reviewed everything, and it was like, all right, you two have to go because you two started what ended up with, Draymond and the headlock and Gobert and all of that. So look at Klay Thompson's homestand. 5 of 16, which he had avoided those games to this point. And look, every shooter's going to have a bad shooting night or a string of bad shooting nights. The problem is the margin for error for this Warriors team, they really can't overcome when it gets into that 5 of 15, 5 of 16, 7 of 19, 8 of 22 range. Like, they just aren't good enough in other areas. And so the 5 of 16s, you can't win with the 5 of 16s. You can't win without Steph Curry. And look, it's more about Curry and not having Draymond tonight than anything, I think, because you don't have your best defender, the anchor of your defense, and you don't have your best player, period. So I think, and you're playing against a team in OKC that I think believes they're a top 6 team in the West from a play-in tournament team a year ago. So all of those things factor into the equation here as far as the Warriors are concerned. But when you look at it, Klay goes 1 of 10, you ain't winning. And, there will be games where Klay's spectacular. And you know what? We may look up at the end of the season and his overall numbers look pretty similar to last year because he's so hot and cold, it limits your ability to win consistently. Now, am I going to throw tonight out? I mean, Klay could have been 7 of 10 tonight, and the Warriors may not win the game because they still can't get enough stops. But when Klay Thompson goes 1 of 10, I'll almost guarantee you the Warriors aren't winning a game with or without Steph Curry. And so, that is much like the conversation the other night surrounding Draymond Green. You're ride or die with Draymond. That means there's games where he gets into it with the officials. There's going to be games where he gets into it with other players. That's Draymond. That's who he is. He said it. He ain't changing. That's fine. The Warriors organization had doubled, tripled down with it the moment they got eliminated in L.A., and again, I don't even think that's necessarily the wrong call, but once you go in on that, you're ride or die. And if you're ride or die on Dre, then Dre may wind up suspended for 5 games. If you're ride or die on Klay, then you know what? Klay Thompson's going to have 1 for 10 games, and he's going to have 5 for 16 games, and he's going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 game stretches where he doesn't play well, and he's going to have 8, 10, 12 game stretches where he's absolutely white hot, 300, 3-point makes for a season, 41% pace. And again, at the end of the year, it may all add up because he is that good, and he proved it last year. The problem, though, is you aren't winning any of the games where he's bad. And the bad are so bad, and that's been something that's, again, not tonight because you're probably not winning tonight anyway, but those games are – the bad games are wreckers, and you can't – and that's just when you talk about wins and losses and how is this team the best version of themselves and all of that, he has to limit those games. And to his credit, he did limit those games in the first 9 games, basically. And the Warriors were 6-2, 6-3. It's popped back up, and the Warriors have been a little shorthanded, and then at that point they can't get it done. Tristan in Temecula, 888-957-9570. Tristan, you are on Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game tonight.
Yes, sir. What's going on?
What's going on, Tristan? What do you got for me?
Hey, man. Yeah, man. You know what? I'm not too surprised about this loss because, look how they handled the Minnesota game. They just cannot handle these young athletic guards. They're too fast. They can't stay in front of nobody. The unnecessary fouls. Just the body language on everybody right now. It's just a complete 180 from what it was maybe a couple weeks ago. And, Wiggins, Klay, I don't know exactly what you can do about them because if they're not going to shoot their shots, they're not going to play any defense. So, hopefully when Steph comes back, they can make a push, maybe go, 2 out of the last 3, but you're still asking a lot from a 35-year-old player who just came back off a sprained right knee to score 30 or 40 points just to win. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not surprised by this loss.
No, definitely not. OKC's a good young team, and I think you made the point. It's the athletes, it's the slashing. To me, it's more about the wings and the guards. Those are the players, whether it's been Cleveland or Minnesota, now Oklahoma City. Denver goes about it a different way. That's a tough loss at the end of a long road trip against the defending champs. You kind of throw that one out. But Cleveland, Minnesota, OKC all have guards and wings that attack and get to the basket and blow by you. And to me, that's where the Warriors have looked a little slow, a little old, as Tristan pointed out there. Tonight, at times, as much as they did fight to get it from, 17-19 down to 1 before the Thunder pushed it back up, tonight they did look like, and tonight they looked like they knew they were overmatched. And they were. But it's a matter of, get Steph Curry back, but figure out Wiggins and figure out Klay Thompson. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they are so invested in those two players being really good and key components and parts of this thing that, they have to play better. If those two players are not playing at, Wiggins, I think, close to 2 years ago level, which he's not even sniffing that. He's not even sniffing last year when he was, healthy and available. He's not even sniffing that level. I mean, his drop has been dramatic. And, again, I think Klay Thompson was fine the first 8 games or so. And now you look up in the last 5, it's been tough. Couple of 5 of 16s, an ejection, 1 of 10 tonight. Really the games on this homestand have been pretty brutal for Klay Thompson as a 4 games now, or is it? Yeah, wait, is it 4? Or is it 5? Yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and tonight. So the 4 games in this homestand with the Warriors 0-4 have not been pretty for Klay Thompson in a number of different ways. And I think what you're seeing is, the Warriors had shown they can win with Klay Thompson being solid and steady. They can't win with him being 1 of 10 and 5 of 16, and that was something that for the most part was true last year. Theodore in Hercules is next. 888-957-9570. Hey, Theodore.
What's going on, JD?
What's up, my man?
Yeah, man, the Warriors, we need a number 2, a new number 2. We came into the season thinking that, Klay or Wiggins, you were just mentioning it, would be that solid guy for us, but clearly they've shown that they aren't that guy. Steph Curry, he's our anchor, he's our guy, but he misses a few games and his team collapses. There's no solid veteran to pick up the slack or even keep composure on the court. We've seen what Draymond is. He's never going to change. Klay is not the player that he is from before his injuries. And Wiggins just isn't doing it for us. We need a solid number 2. I mean, I don't know how we do it. Chris Paul, God bless his soul, he's a great point guard, but he's not going to step up and take over this team when Steph is out. So hopefully we can figure it out. Klay Thompson, he's getting killed on X right now, or Twitter. So hopefully we can do something to shake things up on this roster.
Yeah, they definitely need a number 2, and they were counting on it being Klay and Wiggins. They were counting on the bench being dominant, or at least significantly improved. I don't necessarily think they were counting on it being as dominant as it was in the first 8 or 9 games. I actually don't think they were counting on that. It was sort of a pleasant surprise that they were that good, but it was a big part of the reason why they were winning, despite the fact that Wiggins wasn't providing much, and Klay Thompson was able to be steady, as opposed to needing to be, dominant. And so I think the question is going to shift toward, at least for us, I don't know that it has shifted or will shift at this point internally, because I still think the Warriors like their team when they're fully healthy. But I think the question, as far as us in the media and on the radio and here at 95.7 The Game and all of that, I think the question's going to shift toward, do the Warriors need to make a move, and do they need to make a move quickly? And Klay Thompson's game tonight, I think, is going to lead people down that path. And I think you're going to start, as much as financially it's not feasible when you look at the money involved in the future years and everything, you're going to start hearing a lot about, should the Warriors try to go out and get Zach LaVine? Should the Warriors try to go out and should they go out and try to get a DeMar DeRozan if the Bulls are going to tear everything down to the studs and go in a different direction? And the Warriors have been not the kind of team that's really forced their way into making panicky trades. They've stuck by their core, they've stuck by the guys that they believe in, and they've been able over the long haul to be able to win out with that. Again, we're 13 games into a season, so I don't think the Warriors are pushing the panic button knowing that they like their team when they're fully healthy, but you can't make it through an entire season with no true number 2. Like, somebody at some point has to step up and be a consistent number 2 scorer. And history would tell you that's going to be number 11, Klay Thompson. Andrew Wiggins at times has proven an ability to do it. I don't know what's going on. I feel like Wiggins is slowly coming out of it. You look up tonight, 12 points, and 6 of 13. And, those used to be the quiet Wiggins games where as long as he was rebounding and knocking down a couple of threes, everything would be okay. Well, that's not going to be nearly enough when you're not going to have, Steph and Curry. So, I think you give Jonathan Kuminga a hat tip tonight for going into the starting lineup and scoring 21 and doing it efficiently. He still was a minus 11. I know a lot of that was at the end. He was basically an even player most of the game. But, he's somebody that I think stepped up his game, knowing he was going to get more minutes and knowing that in a lot of ways he's playing for the kind of team that I think at times he's wanted to be on as a younger player, a team where the expectation to win is just not there, and he can go out and play free and relaxed and try and get buckets. And so he did that tonight. The Warriors needed him to do that tonight. I thought it was Kuminga's best game in weeks, as far as impact and everything that he was able to do, and the Warriors needed that tonight. But we're also getting a test case in if Jonathan Kuminga is your best player, what kind of team are you? And so is it going to be him that steps into a void like that? Probably not, because he hadn't been somebody when everybody had been playing that had been filling out that role. But again, a hat tip to Jonathan Kuminga for helping to keep the Warriors in the game when they were still in the game, with an opportunity to tie the game at 84-83 late in the third quarter. Really where this one got away from the Warriors was the 10-2 Thunder finish to the third quarter to get the lead back to 94-85 after the Warriors had cut it down and had an opportunity to tie it. Because at that point you're thinking, hey, the Warriors might be able to steal this thing. Like, are they really going to be able to steal this thing? And so they weren't ultimately, but Kuminga was a big part of the reason why they even, we were even having that conversation. Law-abiding citizen is next here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. Hey, law-abiding.
Hey, what's going on, JD? Anyways, I just want to say, the second unit with Chris Paul, it looks really good in the beginning, but man, Chris Paul's starting to look really old out there. And as far as Wiggins goes,
I'll let you finish, law-abiding, but it's like he just can't score consistently. And tonight he ends up making 4 3-pointers, but night in, night out, he just can't consistently bring it when you need it. And I thought defensively tonight it was rough with a lot of the younger players that he found himself matched up against with the Oklahoma City squad. But yeah, go ahead and finish your point there.
Yeah, totally. Tonight he was great shooting the ball. The first couple weeks of the season, it wasn't looking that great. But as far as Wiggins goes, Wiggins looks completely disinterested in playing basketball right now for some reason. I don't know what the deal is with that, but moving down the line, I don't see him turning a corner where he's going to get back to that level where we could depend on him, because we're going to need to depend on multiple people moving down the line, because let's face it, someone's going to get injured by, a couple months from now or down the line, and we're going to have someone step up, and it's probably not going to be Kuminga either. Thank you, JD. I hope you're sipping an IPA out there.
I'm not an IPA. It's a Kolsch, not an IPA. But cheers to everybody on YouTube and Twitch. Still a real nice crowd here at Harmonic Brewing inside Thrive City. Warrior fans, spirits are up. Trying to make the best of a tough situation with no Steph Curry and no Draymond Green tonight, and the Warriors taking it on the chin. But everybody seems pretty happy, pretty content. You can see Chase Center on the YouTube stream behind me here inside Thrive City. But yeah, no, not an IPA, not this late. But yeah, definitely having a Kolsch. I'll take a sip here before we get to another caller here tonight on 95.7 The Game. Let's keep it moving. Chris is next here on Warriors Wrap Up. Hey, Chris.
Hey, just wanted to talk about the whole Klay Thompson and Wiggins situation. I feel like Kerr's never going to move on from them. He can't tell Klay to stop shooting. And I don't know what else Klay brings if he's not shooting, especially tonight when he's 1 of 10. I think he's actively making us worse. I think Moody's shown that he's better, just a flat-out better player than him right now. And I think Kuminga can be if he gets more minutes. I think he'll become more consistent. And Wiggins, I think it's kind of the same situation. He's just not there right now. I think we need to give the young guys a shot. I think we're holding our team back, and I don't know if we need to make a trade for like Caruso or Levine or something if it gets even worse. But I just don't know if Kerr can make the moves that he wants to make, given what Klay and Wiggins have done for us in the past.
Thanks for the call. I think it's tough because the Warriors invested in the fact that they were going to run it back. Like I've said this a lot. You go back 6 months in LA, they lose Game 6 to the Lakers, and I was down at Crypto.com, formerly Staples Center, and you're thinking, what's going to come out of this? Are the Warriors going to come out in the post-game press conferences and act like maybe this is a wrap for the dynasty group? And they did exactly the opposite and did it with the quickness. And somebody within the organization had leaked, I think, to Anthony Slater and to Shams that the intent was to bring everybody back. They were bringing everybody back. And so when you invest in bringing everybody back, you got to stick with it. And I think they also believe that Moody and Kuminga could be capable, complementary players. And to this point, I think that's been true. But you look at top to bottom this roster to this point, and really everybody has brought something to the table at least part of the time. Everybody. Kuminga, Moody, Looney, Peyton, Podziemski, like everybody at one time or another, Saric, Klay, Steph, obviously Dre. The one guy who really hasn't had a game where you're like, man, he really helped them is Andrew Wiggins. And so, but the Warriors have invested in him, and again, it's like, do you want to give Kuminga Wiggins minutes? Well, the Warriors still don't really play Kuminga at the 3. He's exclusively a 4, which is why he got the start tonight with Draymond out. And so, are you going to play Moses Moody more than Klay Thompson? I don't think so. I know Moses Moody's a sticking point because he did have 12 points and 5 of 11, and he's played well. 707. There it is. Why is Corey Joseph playing more than Moses Moody? Well, because they play different positions. If Steph Curry's out, unless Podziemski's going to be the backup point guard, like Chris Paul's going in to be the starter, and unless Podziemski's going to be the backup point guard, then Corey Joseph is going to play. And they are not comfortable right now with Podziemski being the backup point guard, so Corey Joseph's going to play. So it's at that point, they aren't this. It's not apples to apples. It's not Kuminga should play more and Joseph should play less. They play completely different positions, and so it doesn't work that way. And Moody, I do think, gets caught between some games they want him to be a 3, and I think they don't necessarily, some games they want him to be a 3, and if it doesn't match up properly, then he doesn't play because somebody else is playing better at the 3 on that given night. Some nights they want him to be a 2, and then Podziemski, when he comes in and plays well, he winds up taking those minutes. So it's kind of a little bit of a catch-22 there. 510, weren't they 14-12 without Curry last year? Yes, they were. And a big reason why? Because Jordan Poole scored a ton of buckets. Like, for all of the talk about Jordan Poole and trade him or don't trade him, he had to go. And I get the financial ramifications of it. I get the fact that, what happened with Draymond and the veteran players soured on him and all of that. Like, all of those things are true. I think they feared that he was rubbing off in a poor way against with some of the younger players. And the younger players, some of them were having a little bit more of an attitude, and they didn't like that. Jordan Poole had to go. The Warriors determined that Jordan Poole had to go. Well, the one risk in trading Jordan Poole, really the only risk, is that he helped the Warriors win without Steph Curry at a 14-12 clip. And Steph Curry at this stage of his career, 35, going to be 36 in March, is going to miss games. And so, you hope it's not 26. But if it's 26, this Warriors team might be sunk, given what we've seen these last couple of games, and throughout unless Wiggins and or Klay Thompson are going to be a hell of a lot better than they've been to begin this season. So I'm not saying you shouldn't play. I'm not saying you shouldn't have traded Jordan Poole or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. They made the decision. I think it was the right decision. But again, when you build your roster out, when you no longer have Jordan Poole, you are more vulnerable to playing games without Steph Curry. And right now, this team looks like the kind of team that can't win a single game against anybody in the league without Steph Curry. And I know they were competitive against the Timberwolves the other night. That's more the outlier than the norm. That's the competitive game that where if you're in it, you really need to win it because you're probably not going to play that well the next 2 or 3 or 4 games when you don't have Steph Curry. It's basically once every 4-5 games, you're going to play that competitive-ass game when you don't have Steph Curry, and you're going to have a chance to win. Doesn't mean you're going to win, especially against a team that's as talented as the Timberwolves, but you have a chance. Terry is next here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game at 888-957-9570.
How you doing there, John?
I'm doing well tonight, Terry. What's on your mind?
Yeah, let me ask a question. I've been following the Warriors since back in the early 70s when they had, Nate Thurman, Rick Barry, back in the day. And I just want to know, how come Kerr, since he's been coached, never developed none of the rookies to be good players? Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Well, I wouldn't say it's none. I mean, Kevon Looney ended up becoming a good player. It took him a couple of years. But and the Warriors have had some young players that have gone elsewhere and not played well. They're a veteran team. I think they expect their younger players to develop into role players first and then better players after that. And I think that's where it's been caught up. Kuminga is growing. Like, Moses Moody is growing. See, this is the thing. Those guys are growing. Those guys are better than they were last year, better than they were 2 years ago. Both of them. To a man. Podziemski looks like he's pretty good. And maybe – but here's the thing. The young players are, I think the fans, I think a lot of the time think that these players should be, by year 3, better players than they actually are. And I think some of it comes from unrealistic expectations. Some of it comes from, hey, Kuminga was the 7th pick. Some of it comes from ridiculous comparisons like that of Giannis and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. People are looking at Jonathan Kuminga like he's going to be a borderline all-star or, by year 3, or a superstar by year 5, and if he doesn't look like he's on that trajectory, which for now he doesn't at year 3, if he's not on that trajectory, then you start to think, well, he's a failure and the Warriors aren't doing right by him and they aren't developing him, which in reality isn't the case. It's just that it's going to take more than 2 or 3 years. It might take 5 years before Jonathan. I mean, look how long it took Stephen Curry. You go through Steph Curry. I mean, his rookie year, 09, 10, so 10, 11, 12. I mean, Curry didn't even – it took Curry's 4th year before you even saw a borderline all-star. And then his 5th year, it's like, okay, this guy's pretty damn good. And then it's his 6th year, he's an MVP. His 7th year, he's one of the greats of all time, hitting 400 threes and unanimous MVP and all of that. So it takes time for young players. It's not just this plug and play, these guys. And so I think in some ways, some of the hype, in particular around Kuminga, has set some unrealistic expectations for him, and then people wonder why he's not meeting the unrealistic expectations. Like, I think Kuminga's fine. He's getting better, but he's a young, flawed, raw player in year 3. Is he better than he was last year? Yes. Is he better than he was 2 years ago? Yes. Same thing with Moses Moody, who is still at times struggling to get on the floor, but is also in position where – he's helping more than he did at different points. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. It's Warriors Wrap-Up here at 95.7 The Game. You know what, Sterling? Let's go ahead and pause here. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to the hardest worker of the game. We'll get to our extending the three-point line part of the game, our sponsored segment there. Still a lot of people at Harmonic as the Warriors lose to the Thunder, 128-109. We'll keep this thing going until 11 o'clock. Get in now, 888-957-9570. Warriors Wrap-Up here at 95.7 The Game.
Save on stuff you really need and stuff you bought for fun. Stuff you've always really wanted this holiday at Amazon. Stuff that is discounted if you're naughty or you're nice. Stuff to buy your grandma who drinks her Chardonnay.
That was something.
That was something.
That was something. Great horse shot. For your last letter, I lose.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up with John Dickinson on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert on the call there. Warriors lose 128-109 as they fall now to 6-7, back under 500 for the second time this season. It was 1-0, or it was 0-1 for the Warriors after they lost at home to Phoenix, and then they were all the way up to 6-2, and now they're 6-7. They've lost 5 in a row. They're 0-4 on the homestand. They're 1-5 on the home floor, 5-2 away. And so they've completely given up the fantastic start that they've had on the road because it's basically been the opposite of last year. Unable to win on the Chase Center hardwood, and they're going to get another shot with Oklahoma City on Saturday, Houston on Monday before they go to Phoenix and then come right back in this building, or the building behind me, for those watching on YouTube, as I broadcast live from Harmonic Brewing inside Thrive City here. Still a really good crowd on a Thursday night. People having a good time. Check out Harmonic Brewing here in Thrive City. It's a great place before and after Warriors basketball, and they keep it rolling at least till 11 on these 7 o'clock starts, as long as the place is lively, and it's pretty lively here tonight on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. So 888-957-9570. We're going to keep things rolling here till about 11 o'clock. 888-957-9570. Comcast Business text line open as well. We'll get our hardest worker of the game. We'll get our extending the three-point line for tonight. Let's just kind of go ahead and run through it. Also want to give everybody an update on Gary Payton II. Left ankle sprain. So it's getting worse for the Warriors. Payton comes down, got fouled, landed on an Oklahoma City player's foot. And then an odd sequence. He played about 2 minutes where I wasn't sure in the moment if he had called for a sub and the Warriors didn't see him, or they didn't. It just seemed like nobody knew what was going on as Payton was in obvious pain, trying to grind through it. Oklahoma City immediately matched him up on the perimeter and drove by him for a bucket. And he was trying to grind through, ultimately couldn't. And, come on. They ultimately couldn't, and then he wound up in a situation where he was, eventually left the game. Kuminga went to the table, then they couldn't get a stoppage. I was surprised they didn't foul or call a timeout to get Gary Payton II out of that game, but eventually he did get out of the game, went right to the locker room limping, but he was in some pain, and it was kind of painful to watch. Did not return. Again, on that play, he got fouled. So we'll see. I think that looks like it has the potential to be the kind of injury that could keep him out for some time. And that opens the door for others to be able to step in. And if, he hopefully can come back, because when the Warriors are right, he's a key component to what, they do well. We'll hope for the best on the GP2 front with that ankle sprain, but it's going to be tough. I think that's probably a scenario where he's gonna have to miss some time, to put it bluntly. All right, let's go ahead and get to our extending the three-point line for tonight, which is brought to you by West Coast Men's Health.
Chris Paul, 10 seconds, catches from Wiggins from the far sideline. Brings it middle with a dribble. Off a Klay screen. Chris Paul comes right down Broadway. Throws it out to the corner to Saric, who's open. He hits a three with 1.3 to go in the half. Kenrich Williams won't get it off in time. It's wide right either way. Golden State, in the last 4 minutes and 42 seconds, they go on a 20-8 push. They're back in business, down 7, 67-60 at the break.
Yeah, Warriors made their push from 17 down to within 7. Tim Roy in the call there. 1 of 4 Chris Paul three-point makes in the first half as he finished 4 of 6 overall in the game tonight. That, you're extending the three-point line for tonight. Brought to you by West Coast Men's Health, successfully treating men for ED and chronic pain. Visit westcoastmenshealth.com for more details on that. 888-957-9570. Let's get Jim in San Francisco next here on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Jim.
Good evening, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well tonight. How are you? What do you got?
I'm good. Listen, I can't understand Steve Kerr. In that second quarter, what happened? He put a group of players in there, and they outscored Oklahoma City 20-8. Why didn't he start that same group of players beginning of the second half? Look, I'm 75 years old. I've seen great coaches. I've coached myself. You make teams make you take players off the floor, off the field. You make teams stop you from running certain plays. You don't stop them yourself. Why didn't he start that same group? Hell, we might have been up 15 at the end of the third quarter. Who knows? Might have been up 10. Might have been even. I don't know. But I sure would have made Oklahoma City run that group off the floor. I never would have took them off the floor until they were dog-tired or Oklahoma City ran them off the floor. He didn't do that. Why is he so wedded to Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins? Look, Klay Thompson will never be the same because he's old and he had two devastating injuries. Think about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was a great player, man. What happened to him? He got injured. He's never been the same. I don't know where he is now. I guess he retired. Klay will never be the same again. People keep saying, "Oh, he'll heat up." No, he's not going to heat up. He's just not going to happen. The evidence is there. He can't do it. He can't move. He can't shoot, and he's trying too hard. Put him on the bench. Let him think about it. Put somebody in there who can help you win, and then bring him back and see what happens. But for now, the coach keep doing. He act like he's afraid of certain players. Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and especially Draymond Green. If they had suspended Draymond Green last year, you know what would have happened? The team would have been much better off last year. They probably would have went further, but they didn't do it. And isn't it ironic? Draymond is missing games this year that he should have missed last year.
Thanks for the call, Jim. A lot to chew on there, and it was that group at the end of the half with Saric was out there, Moses Moody was out there, Andrew Wiggins was out there, Chris Paul was out there as well to close the half with Klay Thompson. And so, I mean, there were a number of starters in that group when you look at the lineup, and I just went back and looked at it. The only sub was Moody going out of the game and Jonathan Kuminga coming back into the game. That was the only sub. So, yeah, Saric was Saric who hit that three. Actually, it was Saric who hit that three late in the first half, the 22-footer. And Saric was out on the floor as well. So it was basically the starters in that game, except for the Moses Moody and who was in for Kuminga to close the half. So it was the only thing, and I think it's fair. And I made a note of it. I think on Twitter earlier was that hey, Moody's probably going to need more time in this game. And I thought in the moment maybe Steve Kerr goes to Moses Moody to start the third quarter, but who's he going to go to Moses Moody for among the starters? The only option really would have been Wiggins because Kuminga was playing well, or Thompson, but are you really going to pull Wiggins or Thompson for Moses Moody and bench him to start a third quarter? And the answer, I think we all know what the answer to that question is. The answer is no. They're not going to do that. And we know why, because they have so much invested in those players and in the core group that helped them win a championship, even the guys that were just around the last couple of years that helped them win the championship. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Thunder beat the Warriors 128-109 as Oklahoma City now 8-4, Warriors now 6-7, as they'll be back in action on Saturday right here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors this week coming up 9 to noon. Join me and Dan Devone for that, and then I'll be right back here at Chase for Warriors Live at 4:30 here on Saturday afternoon as the Dubs and the Thunder are set to go one more time, and for the third time here in the first month or so of the young NBA season, playing that thriller a couple of weeks back in Oklahoma City that the Warriors were able to win. So, yeah, I liked the Saric-Kuminga combo off the top. I think that made a lot of sense. When Steve Kerr told everybody pre-game that he was going to start Kuminga, I thought the key question was, Does that mean you're going to go with Kevon Looney or Dario Saric? Saric started the last game against Minnesota. I thought because of Chris Paul in the lineup for Steph Curry, he'd probably go with Saric again at the 5, and he did. Kuminga and Saric complement each other well. Kerr likes Chris Paul playing with both Saric and Kuminga, so I think that made a lot of sense. Wiggins and Klay Thompson, the other two. And look, I got to give Kuminga credit. I did in the first segment. I will again. He played well in the game tonight. 21 points. The Warriors needed the scoring. Did have 4 turnovers, but 6 boards. He got to the free throw line. Jonathan Kuminga really helped the Warriors on a night where they needed offense and played, I thought, his best, at least offensive game, most consistent offensive game. Turnovers wrecked the Warriors in the first quarter. They had 7 turnovers that led to 9 Oklahoma City points, and they couldn't score with the bench group in. Corey Joseph, Podziemski. Podziemski comes back to earth a little bit in that first half group. Did end up with 13 points, but he was a minus 26. It was a rough night for Brandon Podziemski after an early career night for Brandon Podziemski against the Timberwolves the other night. So turnovers and the inability to score or defend that bench group at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the awkward Gary Payton II injury I talked about. Warriors got down 19. Then they were able to make the run before halftime. It was an 8-0, a 10-2, and a 20-8 finish to the half. We heard the Saric 3 there on the call from Tim Roy. Moses Moody, terrific impact in the second quarter. Played the whole quarter. Scored 10 points, hit 2 threes. That goes back to the caller's prior point. Hey, why not more Moses Moody, I think is what he was really saying with the rest of that group. But again, as you lay it out, is Steve Kerr really going to go to Moses Moody over Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins? And I think it's just not to that point. There's too much invested in those two and their early season struggles now to where you're not going to put one of them on the bench in what would be such a dramatic way. And you can say, hey, to hell with that, JD. Play the best players. But, again, you're talking about a future Hall of Famer and a 4-time champion on the one hand, who really has only had 3 rough games in a row. And Andrew Wiggins, obviously, it's been longer than that. But I still think confidence is part of the issue for Wiggins. And if you take Wiggins out of the starting lineup, then you really run the risk of maybe hurting his confidence. Plus, I think Steve Kerr wants to keep a lot of these groups that are playing together to try and build some cohesiveness and to try and play better as they're currently constituted. Third quarter, wound up going to the Thunder 27-25. OKC took pushed the lead back up briefly at the early part of the quarter, and the Warriors cut it all the way down to 84-83. To me, the deciding point of the game after everything was Warriors get it to 84-83. Jonathan Kuminga's on the free throw line with a chance to tie the game. He misses the second free throw. Thunder go 10-2 to finish the quarter. It's back up to a 9-point game right there. And then OKC winds up pushing it out from that point where the conversation shifted from who's going to be finishing the game for the Warriors tonight to, it's not going to matter who's going to be finishing the game because the Thunder put it on the Warriors 34-24 in the fourth, and they wind up turning a 9-point game into a 19-point victory in a game they led by as many as 21. All right. Let's go ahead and get to our hardest worker of the game. Our hardest worker of the game, brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? Learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. And tonight's hardest worker of the game is Kevon Looney for Golden State. Looney made an impact off the bench, 19 minutes. 13 and 11 for Kevon Looney. First double-double of the season, 7th game this year where he's had 10 or more rebounds. And Kevon Looney was out there trying to help fight and scratch and claw and keep the Warriors in the game. And so we'll give it to Kevon Looney tonight. 13 points, 11 boards, your hardest worker of the game. Brought to you by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to save the community and serve the community, I should say. Are you looking for that career in law enforcement? If you are, learn more about job opportunities at acso.com. Again, Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Final couple of minutes here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Let's go ahead and hear from the head coach, Steve Kerr, as he addressed the media post-game over at Chase, Bill King interview room talking about another tough loss for Golden State.
Third quarter series there, you close to 1.
Yeah.
They go 3-3 and I guess close 10-2. Is that where you sensed everything kind of was decided?
I thought that was a key stretch of the game. We needed to finish that quarter and be tied or ahead and have some momentum. And that quick run they went on got it right back to 10. And it slipped away from there. But they were amazing tonight. I mean, they were 19 for 32 from 3. Put on a clinic, and they played a great game, so they got us.
They're such a penetrating kick team. Was there issues with your, on-ball defense there to allow that, or what did you think? Collapse, over help? Or? They
put a lot of pressure on you with the small pick and roll, and they've got Holmgren out at the 3-point line. So they spread you out. And they've got shooters everywhere, and they got a lot of size. Positionally, their guards between Shea and Giddey and Williams, they can all get downhill and find people. So it's team's really well put together, well coached, and they hammered us tonight.
Hey, Coach, so early before the game, you spoke about, putting more points up, obviously, to win the game than the other team. It said 48 points. You outscored them, points in the paint, outscored them second chance point, just barely tied or, just under them fast break points. But then you guys fall tonight. From a game plan perspective, what went wrong and what went right, knowing that you were coming in without the guys that you didn't have tonight?
Not a lot went right. I mean, they took it to us from the beginning. Our transition defense was bad. We lost Isaiah Joe in transition for his first shot of the game. It's a wide open corner 3. We didn't locate him. And a shooter like that, if you give him a wide open look, the floodgates can open up, and that's what happened. And they ran a few nice plays for him, and he popped free and knocked down shots. But, he's 7 for 7. Giddey goes 3 for 3. And they make 19 threes. It's going to be tough to win this game.
Yeah, tough to beat when they make 19 threes, and they did make 19 threes in this one, and the Warriors find themselves losers tonight by a 19-point margin. And, yeah, how about Isaiah Joe? Steve Kerr pointed him out. Isaiah Joe, 7 of 7 from 3. All of his points on threes, actually he hit a couple of free throws as well, so he ended up with 23. And, between him and Giddey, 10 for 10 from 3. That did the trick for the Warriors. And, you let a spot-up shooter get rolling, and we've seen it over the years with a lot of the Warriors. They may not miss very much if you let them get in rhythm and get confident early, and there were a lot of really wide-open looks for Oklahoma City in this one. All right, we'll call it a night on that note. Really appreciate Harmonic Brewing here in Thrive City for having me out for Warriors wrap-up here tonight. Looking forward to being back out here at some point in the near future. Also, the Warriors shop at Thrive City. Great to be out there for the pregame earlier. Want to thank Sterling Bennett and everybody in our San Francisco studios as just a great job from one and all on a tough night for the Warriors. Great job, everybody putting in a big-time effort back in the studio. I will be back with you on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. until noon. Join me, Dan Devone, taking your calls, reacting to this one. It's been a tough week. Warriors haven't won in a while. You got to go all the way back to the 6th in Detroit, the Warriors' last victory, and they'll get another opportunity to do it coming up here on Saturday, Game 5 of the 6-game homestand, and the Warriors still looking for their first win. At noon, Warriors this week, and then Warriors Live from 4:30 to 5 on Saturday right here on 95.7 The Game. So keep it locked right here on 95.7 The Game all day long tomorrow, and we'll talk to you Saturday morning, bright and early. Thunder get the better of the Warriors tonight, 128-109, and you heard it all right here in your home for Warriors basketball, 95.7 The Game. Good night.
Hey, this is Travis Kelce, NFL tight end and proud member of the Lowe's home team. Lowe's knows when you've got the best price, you've already won. That's why we offer the lowest price guarantee. If you find a better price online or in-store, we'll match it. Now you can score on the top brands from the Lowe's home team picks.